Hey guys, John and Jamie from True Crimecast here. If you're anything like us, you've probably had those conversations where you're like, man, someone should be recording this.
Right? And now you can do that with Zen AI, the home of vibecasting. A vibecast is all about putting the conversation first and turning it into something worth sharing.
Whether you're reacting live to a game or TV show, Zen AI makes it incredibly easy to create your own broadcast.
And you don't need a fancy setup either. Your phone is your studio. Just hit record, start talking. You can get professional level sound right from your phone.
Then Zen AI's AI producer takes over from there. It handles the cleanup, helps with editing, and even creates share-ready clips. And the cool part is you can make changes simply by chatting with it in plain English.
Zen AI is currently an invite-only beta, so join the wait list today.
Head to zen.ai to sign up.
That's zen.ai. Start vibecasting this summer. Hey, True Crimecast fans, Jamie and John here. For the next couple of weeks, we're going to give you a special presentation of our show, Paradigm.
Paradigm is an 8-episode series where we take a deep dive into one case. If you've been around for a while, you'll know that that is very different, as we normally will do an episode per case, but not this one.
We're currently working on season 2 of Paradigm, so we thought it'd be a great idea to bring season 1 back up. So on the True Crimecast feed over the next couple of weeks, you're going to get the entire first season of Paradigm. Now, that whole season is available over on the Paradigm feed. So you can go over there and subscribe and listen to it all now, or wait till it comes out here.
If you do go over there, we would encourage you to go ahead and hit subscribe so that when our new season comes out, you'll be immediately notified.
We're in the depth of that investigation, and it's going to be, we think, a really great story being told with hopefully some good outcomes. So make sure you subscribe over there. The guys will be back in a couple weeks for your regularly scheduled programming of True Crimecast.
Guys, we love you, and we'll see you next crime.
In the wake of the Lillywhite murders, all of the newspapers, TV news stories, and news headlines painted the Pikeville Six with a broad brush. Everyone agrees that the group left Pikeville together. All were on the scene of the violent attack of the Lillywhite family, and they were all arrested together in Arizona. And that's pretty much it as far as their stories lining up. The path that each took to get there was very different, and it's important to know each of their individual journeys to accurately assess their culpability in relation to the crime and what true justice looks like for the Lillywhite family. Today, we're going to take a step toward restoring the idea of individual accountability as we break down their upbringing, their life influences, and ultimately the justice that each of the Pikeville Six deserve. Today, we start off with the stories of Jason Bryant, Dean Mullins, and Joseph Risner. This is Paradigm.
Edward Dean Mullins was born January 26, 1978. He grew up in the community of Harold, Kentucky, and went to Betsy Lane High School. By all accounts, Mullins had the most uneventful upbringing. There was no abuse to speak of, no alcohol or substance abuse issues, and no major traumatic events. In a statement provided by Mullins for the Devil Came Knocking podcast, he spoke about what it was like growing up in his home. Here are his words, read by a voice actor.
My young eyes perceived a very normal home. I had 2 loving parents and older sister. By 2 years, it seemed to me that we were a very happy and close family. My dad working in heating and cooling, as he would continue to do for the rest of his life. Still working part-time today. My mom was a stay-at-home mother who did all the things associated with that profession. I don't ever recall feeling sad in my home. My dad was also a volunteer minister at the Lower Toller Church of Christ in Harold, Kentucky, my hometown. I wish I could remember hearing him preach. Everybody said that he's a really good speaker. My parents separated in 1985, and about a year after that, they were divorced. It all seemed very sudden to me. What had I missed? Everything in my home felt warm and loving and perfect. But we don't always see everything. My dad had been unfaithful to my mom. He was having an affair with another woman. I didn't know this then, of course. I was 6 or 7. I think I was 8 years old when the divorce was final. All I knew was the sadness that suddenly permeated our home. And I didn't understand why. I remember hearing Mom crying all night. I would get out of bed and crawl into hers so I could hold her while she cried. I didn't really know why. I just knew that Daddy was gone and Mommy was sad. And in my home, when people were sad and crying, we held them and cried with them. There are other memories of my dad, both positive and negative. When I was around 6 or 7, Dad brought me home my very first BMX bicycle. I rode it around the yard and ended up standing at the creek bank talking to my friend Stephanie, who lived on the other side. We were throwing rocks at the creek bank while we talked, a thing we did often. One of them came all the way across and hit me in the forehead. I started bleeding. There was a rush to get me to the ER. My mom says that this event was one of the most fatherly things he ever did. He went into the room with me. He held me as they tried to stitch me up. His heart was always good, but he didn't always make the best decisions. I guess the apple doesn't fall far from the tree. I like to think that we finally get the message God was sending. Some of us have to learn the hard way, it seems. As far as my home goes, those were the most traumatic events that I experienced.
Mullins dropped out of high school his senior year, but was close to getting his GED when these crimes occurred. Like many teenagers, Mullins spent most of his time trying to find himself, and that led him on several different paths. He got really into church for a while, he worked at a grocery store for a couple of years, joined a rock band, and eventually landed in the arms of Natasha Cornett. Here's more of what Mullins had to say about how his relationship with Natasha began. For context in this clip, Philip is his neighborhood friend and LaShonda was his girlfriend at the time.
Natasha Cornett. I knew Natasha, sort of. It had been a long time since I had seen her, but I knew who she was. That night we went to the graveyard in Pikeville to hang out. That was all, hang out. Smoke, turn some of the tombstones back upright, and tell some stories about witches that were buried here. I'm not sure if any of those stories were true. I got home late and had a fight with my mom over how I had treated Shonda. I did feel bad about it. In hindsight, I was such a stupid kid. Natasha was lost and needed to be saved, and maybe she would also be my one. I apologized to Shonda that night, but another argument ensued, and I was that much more resolved to move on. The next day, Philip called and said he was going to Natasha's house to hang out and asked if I wanted to come. I agreed, and they came and picked me up. We all hung out, drank, smoked some pot, listened to music. Philip's dad called, I think, and told him to get home. We left, and I got home kind of late. Mom and I fought. Shonda called. Her and I fought. The next day, BJ called and asked if I wanted to go out with her and Natasha. I told him to come and get me. I was quite sure at this point I would be breaking up with Shonda. That phone call happened. It was a fight, and there was crying, yelling. Part of me was sad. Part of me was excited to be out of another relationship that was unhappy. When I left that evening, Mom and I fought again. There were some angry words exchanged, and I knew I would not come back home. I don't completely know what I was thinking at the time. I was 19. I had lived with my mom all the way to this point. I had only worked one job, and that was for a short period when I was 16. I only had sex 3 times, twice with the same girl. It wasn't about sex to me, it was about being whole, about that part of my spirit that felt so empty, that place where my Eve was taken from. Sex wouldn't fit that, so it was never really physical to me, but it is inevitably that to a 19-year-old boy. You can't argue biology. I can't ignore that now as an adult looking in retrospect. I moved in with Natasha that night. I don't know the date. I suppose there are records in the court noting it, but I don't recall. I went home for the last time the next day to get all my stuff. Mom begged me to stay home. My dad and my future stepmom were at Natasha's that night, and there were several big yelling matches between them and Natasha's mom. Between me and Dad, it was a mess. Finally, Dad came to the door of Natasha's bedroom and asked me if this was really what I wanted. I shook my head yes. He asked if I was sure. I said yes. He said okay and walked away.
Mullins and Natasha would start dating. On paper, they had nothing in common, but they were at the right place at the right time to get together. In fact, they had planned to get married. That's why he agreed to go on the trip with Natasha and her other friends down to New Orleans, even if he had to be smashed into a Chevy Citation with 5 other teenagers. We were able to obtain disciplinary records for all 6 of the individuals incarcerated for this crime, and in Dean's nearly 27 years in prison, he has only had 3 incidents on his records. An early incident of having property in his cell that shouldn't have been there, and the second 2 came in 2014 as a result of having a cell phone illegally.
Joseph Risner was born and spent most of his childhood in Hazard, Kentucky, which is not in Pike County, but in nearby Perry County. He was born on October 13th of 1976. Raised by his mother Mary and his stepfather Ray Risner, even though he was never legally adopted by Ray, he was given his last name. And he's never met his biological father. When Joseph was 10 years old, they moved to Georgia, where their lives started to change dramatically. Ray and Mary started abusing drugs, primarily marijuana and cocaine, but it ultimately led to their divorce. Joseph also started doing drugs at the time, primarily LSD and marijuana, and he spent a lot of time drinking. He started exploring sex, allegedly with 2 of his babysitters at the age of 12. Eventually, he would head back to Kentucky with his mother, moving in with her sister Josephine. He ended up having to repeat 8th grade and really struggled academically. He would drop out of school just before his senior year at Betsy Lane High School to join the Army, but a positive test result for marijuana got him discharged before he even got going. He was unable to re-enroll in school since he was already 19 years old, so he finished his GED and seemed to be moving in the right direction. He then enrolled in the Mayo Regional Technology Center, and he was successful in his coursework and ready for his 3rd term there in spring of 1997. It was also at this time that he started dating Karen Howell, who was living with his ex-girlfriend, Natasha Cornett. Risner's mother, Mary, did not like this relationship, primarily because she did not like Natasha Cornett and did not want him spending time around her. He claimed that he was deeply in love with Karen Howell at the time that these crimes occurred. As discussed in previous episodes, many accounts of the Lillywood murders, even that of his girlfriend Karen Howell, have Joseph named as one of the killers, indicating that at least he ran over the family with the van and at most he had a role in the shooting. In a statement to the Devil Came Knocking podcast, Joseph had this to say about his role in the murders.
If anything should be known, it's that I was never intentionally evil. There was never any cult, despite Berkeley Bell's ravings, and he knew that as well as anyone. The truth is, we were a carload of hurting teenagers who left Kentucky to escape our personal hells for a little while. For most of our lives, and I speak for most of us, the adults around us either abused, ignored. So when Victor Lillywood tried to show us the love of God, we couldn't begin to comprehend his actions. When I heard that Natasha wanted us to rob this guy because my car wasn't going to make it, Victor was alone, and I didn't know his family was there. I always assumed no one did until they appeared on the picnic table. I really didn't want anyone to get hurt. But I also didn't know that Natasha had been grooming Jason to do whatever she wanted. As it turned out, I wasn't nearly as smart enough or capable as I thought I was. When Natasha sent for me to bring her a gun, I honestly did not think that she had the gall to use it. When Jason took it and held poor Victor up, I didn't trust Jason not to shoot, so I tried to take over. I knew I wouldn't shoot anyone. The reality is that I can't pass the buck here. I may not have killed anyone, but without me, we wouldn't have left Kentucky. And I led the robbery. Even after his family showed up, I would give anything to go back and just say no to any or all of it. But the truth is, I did it, and 3 people are dead because of that. And Peter, I don't know what to say about or to him, because we took so much from him until he appeared on the local news about the 25th anniversary of his family's death. I thought he was a vegetable. I didn't know that he had recovered from the attack and made a life for himself. I can't express how good that news was to me. He deserves so much more than what we left him.
After his arrest, Joseph was diagnosed with borderline personality disorder, and Dr. Margaret Robbins noted at the sentencing hearing that those with borderline personality disorder can be self-defeating and have ineffective ways of coping, or they simply fall apart and decompensate under the weight of unmanageable emotions. However, nobody believed that Joseph should get a pass for his actions due to his traumatic history, and he was not the only one that had a rough upbringing. In prison, Joseph had a rough time early on. He had 25 incidents on his record, mostly stemming from tobacco use and failed drug screenings. However, he has had 0 incidents on his record since 2012.
The accused individual that we know the least about is probably Jason Bryant, in part because he is the youngest, but he also had the least amount of consistency in his childhood, and there are just fewer records available. Bryant was born on July 18, 1982, in Hyler, Kentucky. Psychological evaluations after his arrest would indicate that he had low-functioning IQ of just 85, and his social skills were declared to be that of an 11-year-old. So, he was both intellectually and developmentally behind his peers, and this could indicate a significant amount of unknown childhood trauma. A court report stated that he started using alcohol at just 3 years old. Since the age of 9, he had experimented with marijuana and other drugs. Due to his low functioning capacity and drug and alcohol abuse, Bryant had also spent time in a mental health treatment center in Pikeville before the murders, at which time he was just in the 8th grade. As far as his criminal history goes, Bryant had 2 previous charges that were both unviolent and handled by the juvenile justice system. It is reported that he passed drug screenings as part of that sentence and treatment for 2 months leading up to the murders, but that does not necessarily prove that he was drug-free. It is reported that Bryant got involved with the group known as the Pikeville Six, much like the others, via Natasha Cornett. He was walking down the street in Pikeville when Natasha offered him a ride in a safe place to stay. He was given alcohol and potentially other drugs while staying with Natasha. He then left her house for a few weeks before returning just days before the murders. The majority of the information we have about Bryant's behavior actually comes from his discipline record while in prison, which is very extensive. During his time in prison, he has 91 incidents that have occurred, far surpassing everyone else on the list combined. These charges include the use and exchange of drugs, tampering with security equipment, having illegal weapons, defiance, violence, larceny, and a host of others. If you are to judge someone's character based on their behavior, which is often all we have, this laundry list says a lot about Jason Bryant.
Depending on which article you read or what interview you listen to, you'll get a variety of opinions about who is the most and the least culpable for the murders of the Lillylid family. Many will say that Natasha was the ringleader since she pretty much brought the group together. Several members of the Pikeville Six point the fingers at Jason Bryant as the sole shooter, but he claims that he didn't shoot at all. In order to get the full perspective, we believe it's important to take a look at the background of each individual, both in the long term and directly leading up to the murders. Today's story was about the male teenagers involved in this murder, and on the next episode, we'll follow up with more information about the backgrounds of the females involved. But to get back to the quote that led off the episode, it's vital to give each individual their own consideration for culpability in this crime. No matter how much the media tries to blame Satanism, or to blame culture, or even to blame a faceless group they dubbed Satan Six, there were individuals here that took the lives of other individuals. And that is how we will proceed to tell this story. This is Paradigm.